Yo guys, welcome back again today. And today we're going to be talking about more news from people of African descent or things of African descent, people around the world of melanated color in this world. So let's start out today with talking about Jay-Z. Now, Jay-Z, it was announced that Jay-Z was over a billionaire. It's actually interesting to me because I thought that P. Diddy would be a billionaire before Jay-Z was, because I think last time I checked, P. Diddy was making like, or I think altogether his worth was like 950 something million, I think. And then Jay-Z's was like 928 million, if I'm correct. I'm pretty sure that's what I checked like last year, but maybe I could be wrong about that. But it seems that Jay-Z has become the first billionaire in rap and another black billionaire in general in this world. And so, you know, Jay-Z has invested in a lot of different things. If you guys don't know, he's invested in Uber. He has a lot of money in Uber. I think he bought a certain amount of the company maybe a couple years ago, and then now obviously the company has risen and has made a lot of money, so obviously Jay-Z's investment would rise as well. Jay-Z owns his own alcohol. What else does he own? He owns a very extensive art collection of art that's very expensive. So obviously, as you know, art in a lot of things can appreciate over time, and the art that he has is going to appreciate and has appreciated over time. And also he has multiple houses throughout the world and in America which are worth a ridiculous amount of money. And his catalog, I think at one point he didn't own his rights, or he didn't own his masters to his music, right, to his albums and things of that nature. But I think now he did a deal maybe maybe like 10 years ago or a couple years ago, or maybe in the early 2000s, I can't really remember. And he did a deal where he owns his own masters. So now he's getting obviously all his money from his masters. When anybody plays his music, they have to pay a company in a store like Walmart or any store around the world, and they have to pay a company. And when they pay that company, Jay-Z gets that money because they're playing his music. So if you ever wondered how artists get paid, there's companies that collect the money that get the money from the stores or the establishments. If they play music, they have to pay a certain amount of money to play that music. So with all that being said, I don't think I'm missing anything else, but he has investments in a lot of different places, right? And it might be even investments that we don't even know about at the moment, but he has investments in a lot of different places. So if you add up how much he's invested into companies, and then you take into account how much his income is every year, and then also you take into account how much he probably spends a year, because he spends a lot of money, you know what I'm saying? Obviously a lot of it is on investments, but a lot of it is probably for play and maybe to help other people out, whatever it might be, right? His houses, his cars, his lifestyle as a superstar. And then when you add all those things together, his investments, how much he makes, and then how much he spends, yo, he's a billionaire, you know what I'm saying? And probably been a billionaire for a very long time. I would like to think that most of these people like P. Diddy and all these people have been a billionaire for a while, because I mean, if you think about it, even if you were only making, you know, $300 something million a year or $500 million a year, and then you invest a lot of money, that's still making you more money. And then also you have investments that you can, you know, that are liquid investments like houses or anything you can liquidate. You can just sell it off and get rid of. And of course, when you're a superstar, it's only probably going to rise in value, especially because you're in an area that the value most likely is only going to keep rising and rising. Yo, people like Jay-Z and P. Diddy have probably been billionaires for a couple years now, if not longer than that, as far as over time, right? Because I mean, you're talking about you're making this much money 1 year, and then over time it's like, yeah, you've probably been a billionaire, like maybe not a billionaire in 1 year, but throughout 3, 4, or 5 years or 2 years, you've been a billionaire. So yo, Jay-Z's came from the projects, in Marcy's projects in Brooklyn, in New York, you know what I'm saying, which is not an easy place to come up out of, and he's become a billionaire. So it just lets you know that, you know, we're moving along in time to where you can see a rap artist become a billionaire, which is the first rap artist billionaire, and Jay-Z being one of the best lyricists of all time, maybe, and it's debatable, one of the best hip-hop artists of all time, compared to Biggie, compared to Tupac, compared to other people like that, you know, Big Daddy Kane and all these legendary people, Nas, you know. It's an amazing thing, you know, and it gives you a lot of hope that maybe you could make it one day. You never know. You know, somebody's watching right now that's a rapper around the world, you know, in Africa, in America, in the Caribbean, whatever kind of artist you are, you know, just keep working at it, and maybe you can become a billionaire. What do you guys think about that? So guys, let's talk about the motherland, right? Let's transition from America to back in Africa. So as you guys know, I talked about Sudan and what's going on in Sudan at the moment. I talked about it maybe a month or two ago, if I'm correct about that. So in Sudan, a lot of unfortunate bad things are happening right now. So to update you guys, if you don't know, there was a coup to get rid of the president of Sudan because he was there, I think, since 1989, and I guess the citizens didn't want him to be there anymore, and accused him of doing bad things. Now, once the coup happened and the president was gone, the military, there's two people, right? There's the citizens and then there's the military. The military and the general that was over the military basically came to agreement and said, hey, we'll have different rules or times that we rules in cycle, right? So, basically the citizens will rule for a while, then the military will rule for a while until they can create a new government in the sense of giving people time to vote, making sure that it's not premature, making sure that, I guess, the right people get into office, and also making sure that people are allowed to vote fairly and just vote in general. And I guess that hasn't been going through. So basically what's been happening is that at some point there was a conflict between the citizens and the military rule, as far as what I know. And basically the talks ceased and that agreement ceased. And there was a peaceful protest going on in the capital of Sudan, if I'm correct. And there were a lot of people killed. I think there was over 50 people killed. There's been reports of women being raped, men being raped. And that's just what's being reported. So who knows how much further and how much more it is, unfortunately. So, I just want to send my condolences to the people that's going through these bad things in Sudan. It's unfortunate when there's unstableness in a country, because it doesn't always mean that somebody's going to keep to their word. I mean, even in stable countries, everybody doesn't always keep to their word. It's just, how the public perceives it and how quiet they can keep things, right? So in Sudan, unfortunately, like I said, there's a lot of unrest. Unfortunately, the news will not talk about it. There won't be coverage, and it sucks that there's not coverage, because as soon as something goes down in, the European world, or in certain places that maybe people care more about, right, they report on it. But it's been very few reporting on Sudan right now, unfortunately. And there's a lot of things going on with Sudan. And every time it's people of African descent, it doesn't seem like the reporting is as crazy as far as in your face on the news all around the world, unless, it's about money or it's a gain from somebody else. So unfortunately, these things are happening in Sudan. This group in Sudan, this military, or the military power, is basically, seems like to me, taking over the power of the country, and maybe slowly and eventually trying to take over Sudan, in general. And I hope it doesn't happen that way. There's been a lot of blackouts, I think, in Sudan, to where a lot of people can't talk outside of Sudan. They can't get the word out of what's going on in Sudan. And also, it's been reported that this military group and another group, if I'm correct, or just the military group, they have a lot of ties with some of the more powerful Middle Eastern countries. And these two powerful Middle Eastern countries have been funneling, ridiculous amount of money in for their cause. That's what's being reported. So I hope things in Sudan can change. I hope that the Sudanese people, and just in general, people around the world, can come together and understand that, fighting is never the answer. Struggling for power, I always know there's always different entities that want more power than another person, but fairness, or at least being as fair as possible, should be the goal for all human beings. And I just hope that Sudan can come to peace, because Sudan's one of my favorite countries, and I love Sudan, and Sudan has a lot of deep history. And I just hope that this conflict can come full circle, and there can be fairness, and there can be, whichever way Sudan as a whole, the people want to run their country. I hope they can run their country. I'm not going to sit up here and say, like other people, oh, it should be, a capitalist society, or it should be this kind of society, or it should be a democracy. Whatever works for everybody, or majority of people, I would say, because obviously you can't please everybody. Unfortunately, I wish it was like that, but we just can't. That's what I want the Sudanese people to get, right? And I want fairness. That's all I want. I want fairness. You know what I'm saying? Because there's too many times in all countries around the world where, people without power, they don't have a say-so or as much say-so as people with power. And I understand, like I said, it's hard to balance it. It's hard to make everybody happy. You know what I'm saying? Running a country is not easy by any means. Like, it's not. It's just not. You know what I'm saying? But to get your point across by force, and especially when people are you have an agreement and people don't have power, that's not right. It's just not right. You know what I'm saying? So I hope that Sudan does better in the future, and we'll be keeping eyes on Sudan. We've been talking about it for a while, and obviously I'm not in Sudan, so I don't really know. All I can go off of is reports and what people that I know from Sudan tell me, or that are outside of Sudan tell me. But I hope everything gets better, because killing your fellow man or your fellow people, if you live in that same country, it's just not right. You know what I'm saying? It's just not right. And I get it. Everybody is not always calm. Things happen. Stuff happens. You know what I'm saying? But you have to make your best judgment. And the best judgment is to not kill people, or a certain group of people, especially if they're willing to talk. As much as you argue and you disagree, there should never be blood being shed if two parties want to come together and have a conversation, regardless of how heated it gets, right? So guys, that's what's going on in Sudan. All my condolences to the people that were lost in Sudan, even the people that I don't know about right now, because you never know what the real total count is, or how many people got raped, or how much of this, how much of that. But to Sudan and the people of Sudan, there should always be fair talks on all sides, right? There should always be fair talks on all sides, and everybody should be able to say what they want to say, or at least have a representative to say what they want to say. So what do you guys think about it? Now let's talk about David Ortiz. Now David Ortiz is a Afro-Latino from the Dominican Republic, right? And I grew up on David Ortiz, just like I grew up on Ken Griffey Jr., a lot of other black baseball players. Now, Ortiz, he was shot. If you guys don't know, he was shot in Dominican Republic in his hometown, and he was shot in the back. He was at a bar, and some other man from the DR, he ran up on him and he shot him like point blank in his back. And a lot of people were around him. The cops right now say they have a man under custody for questioning right now, so I don't know exactly if that's the shooter or not. But then he was flown back to Boston. The Boston Red Sox, they sent a private jet to the DR and they flew him back to Boston. And now he's back in Boston in the USA, and he's at a hospital right now. Now he will live, he's recovering, but he doesn't really want to talk to anybody right now. He wants to, rest up and be with his family. So it's really sad, because I grew up on him. One of the sports that I really loved, I really wasn't into baseball. Like our generation wasn't necessarily into baseball, as far as like every kid. It was more like basketball and football and, soccer for me. But for most people in America, it's more basketball and football. And it's crazy because as I was growing up, I really looked up to him. I looked up to Ken Griffey Jr. And, obviously I was a really, really small kid or whatever, but just to see somebody play baseball and like how big of an impact that they made on the game of baseball, even though, there were a lot of other people, since the 20s and 30s and 40s in America, black people that played baseball that paved the way. It was cool then. In that generation, baseball was very cool, in the 30s and 40s and 50s and 60s. Like, baseball was very, very cool. And then, when our generation came along, baseball's still cool, but I think it's clear enough to say that majority of people, at least people of African descent in America and around the world, were probably more into basketball, football, and soccer, unless you're from Puerto Rico or DR, where baseball is very much king, like soccer is as well. And there's probably other countries as well, you know what I'm saying? But I think I can clearly say for most people, black people and people of African descent in America, like basketball and football for our generation probably has been the, you know, biggest in the major sports that we aspire to be if we're into athletics, right? So, you know, my condolences to him. Shout out to him. You know, he's a legend. You know, he's a slugger. Love him. You know, I used to watch him all the time. One of my uncles is a big baseball guy, you know, and a couple of people in my family are baseball people. So really, really loved him. You know, I hope all the best for him. I hope he gets better. And yo, guys, that was all the news today. As always, like, subscribe. If you haven't turned on the bell notification, please do. It's down there, the bell right under the subscription button, if I'm correct. Push that little bell because that will make sure that you guys get all my videos when I upload. All my social media, Afric Network, which is Snapchat, Instagram, Twitter, SoundCloud, and Facebook. Always, guys, each one teach one. Always try to be kind to each other. Always try to talk to each other. Always try to have a conversation as mad as you get before it goes too far. And also make sure that you guys always connect with other people of African descent all around the world. Just don't stay in your box. Just don't be like, oh, this is my ethnicity, this is all I know. Intermingle with each other. Talk to each other. Understand each other. Marry each other. Love each other. You know what I'm saying? Because we have to stick together in this world. And guys, until next time, peace. One love.
What's up? What's up?
Hey.
Shalom.
What up?
Hi.
Africa.